Hello, friends, and welcome back. Happy early holidays. The holiday season is quickly approaching, whether we like it or not, as it seems to do every year. So here we are, just before Thanksgiving, and I would like to take you through the session that is my ambient rework of Jingle Bells. But before we do so, I'd like to once again remind you and invite you to join my newsletter, which you can do in the caption below, clicking the link and just putting in your name. It's a really occasional conversation between myself and you, and not annoying, I promise, but if it ever becomes annoying, you can always unsubscribe. And yes, I can see that you do that. As evidenced here with this stack of holiday records that I really enjoy, I'm a pretty big fan of the holiday season and holiday music, and listening to it on record always puts me in the cheery holiday spirit as we decorate the house, host family, and cook dinner and do all of that fun holiday stuff. So last year, I made an Instagram reel of a little clip of doing Jingle Bells. So I elongated the performance and the arrangement, and here we are. Here we are in Ableton, and this is divided into kind of two sections. We have all of the virtual sample-based instruments on top, and then we have the acoustic, actual analog instruments on the bottom here. So the easiest thing to talk about would be the fireplace. I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to make a holiday track that doesn't have this in it. So I decided to put one in it. This is actually from a weekend camping trip that my wife and I took out to Wimberley here in Texas. And I am sticking my hand with my phone as close as humanly possible to the fire for as long as I could tolerate it without losing any of my knuckle hair and melting my phone. I got close. They say the best camera is the one that you have with you. I think the same thing for a recorder. You can just use the voice memos on your phone to capture some really fun things. And now I have this kind of like cemented memory within the music that is something that I remember doing and a shared experience, which I think is just layers of holiday nostalgia, I guess. So there you go. That's the first layer there, the sound effects, which again, like most things, I automate it. So I bring it in and out and I make room for the other elements. I don't like to keep it in there just stagnant the whole time. Great. Let's move on to the next element, which is the most prominent in the track. This piece right here. This swelly, pulsy synth is coming from this little music computer called Norns. And I'll show you that in just a moment. But Norns is this music computer that has a whole bunch of different scripts in it, which are essentially programs written by people all around the world on this forum called Lines that you could download and install into it. And one of the most inspiring to me in the way that I work and I write is this one called Fall by Ambient. And you can check out their work on Instagram as well. And I'll make sure to drop the link in the caption. So this is how this piece started. I had just started messing around with Fall because that's sort of how I use it. I just capture the whole experimentation process and then go through and edit. But in this case, let me show you how Fall works. Okay, so let's take a look at Norns. So to get started with it, you kind of wake it up from its slumber. And that beautifully haunting sound is the sound of Norns waking up. Okay, so we'll navigate to the main menu and we're gonna select and go through the list of scripts here until we get to Fall. We'll load this up and you'll hear right away that we get right into it. Now, each of these controls is mapped to parameters, This one here is how many notes and how quickly they come in. This is the release time and the attack time. So I like to play with that as we go. And it kind of loops around. I'm sure there's a workaround for that. But for now, this is how I do it. So we can introduce a few more notes. And by using this here, you can kind of change what you're working in. Different scale, the root note, the notes, and the tempo. So for this, let's take a look. Maybe we'll go to major pentatonic. And we'll go to F. Notes being F, G, A, C, D, F. Yeah, that works. So there we go. Step out of that now. Okay, we'll loop through. A little quicker attack. I guess if we wanted to, we could add in a few more notes. Could take a look at some delay time. Extra feedback. Take a look at the scale again. See if we can step through that at all. I don't think we can. That's all right. So you get this kind of really blissful, peaceful soundscape that you could really just sit and listen to for hours. So we can remove some of the leaves, which are some of the notes. And there you go. It's a little primer on fall. It takes a lot of just fumbling around and playing for me to get to the place that I like it. So that's why I'm always recording when we do it. Can you introduce a few more notes for a second? Beautiful, right? Okay. So that's fall on Norns. Good night. Okay, welcome back. So you could see that you can kind of get lost in a wormhole of time there. So whenever I do sit down with fall, I try to actually take note of the time to make sure that I'm not wasting too much time, because while it's so fun to play and listen as a performer, you do have to mine through to find some of the really usable parts. In this case, I did just keep note of it, but if we pulled out the handles here, you'll see it goes for a little bit longer. So anyways, that is Norns, which was the basis of this track that I started playing upon. Now, let's take a look at the next piece, which would be Cosmos, which is this really cool pedal from Soma Labs, and we'll solo that out and listen to that. So you can hear there's kind of panning going on there. And if you look below, no audio effects. That is truly just the pedal doing its own thing. And what I fed into it was actually some guitar from Hologram Electronics Microcosm on the pedal board that was recorded separately and then fed into Cosmos. And then I played Cosmos kind of in the same way that I did Norn's Fall, just captured the performance of it and then layered it in and moved it around. So you can see it has this kind of swarmy, swirly, almost like a snow globe type of feeling. And when it plays off of Norn's, I don't know, kind of feels like a winter wonderland to me. So really quickly, we started building this wintry feeling, this cold feeling with the wind coming from Fall and also the swirling coming from Cosmos. So let's take a look at how Cosmos works in context. Alrighty, so here we are on the side rack here looking at Cosmos. Now, Cosmos is this, quote, drifting memory station, but really what I think it is this fantastic composition tool in that you can take very simple parts and create something incredibly complex super quickly and in a really fun way. So let me show you how part of Jingle Bells was done. So we had recorded the guitar in the rack. We had recorded the guitar in the pedal board using the microcosm. And then what I did is in Ableton, I fed it out into Cosmos and then captured that back into Ableton. So let me play in some guitar. And I'm going to send that over via Ableton to Cosmos. And when that starts coming, we can record. You can see we're already starting to get in some cool stuff happening here really quickly. We can throw in a different head for a minute. And that's all recording. And then we could say, okay, that's good. And we'll stop Ableton from sending. And now we're just hearing Cosmos. And we can start messing with the blur setting, drift setting, and you can hear that that's really what is this track. If we want to roll off some of the highs, we can do that at a click of a button. Kind of just keep it infinitely in there. Take that out, we can get low pass, high pass now. We can switch between the two. And if we want to reverse, that's fine. And of course, it's really fun to throw the whole thing into half speed. We can get rid of that. Might be a bit much for this though. We can bring it back out of half speed. There you go. And so you can see we have this evolving landscape. And what I like to do is just record the entire time I'm playing around with this. So you can get really experimental with it because you don't have to worry. You're just recording. If you get something great, it's in the box. So I like to mess with some stuff and see if I can get some extreme things going on. Just carving out the middle, leaving just the middle rather. starting to get a little hairy on us, which is okay. So there you go. That's how we created the snow globe effect in Jingle Bells using the Soma Cosmos. Welcome back. The next few analog layers of this, the final two really, are the guitars, which is actually just one performance looped. Like I said before, this was a shorter Instagram piece, which was around a minute, that I filled out to be 3.5 minutes. So here's the guitar, which you can see is the basis of what the Cosmos loop is. And what I'm doing here with the guitar is actually strumming with my finger really quickly into Hologram Electronics Microcosm. And you can hear my finger kind of hit the strings sometimes. Okay, so here we are at the effect station. I've been working with these guitar pedals for the last 6 or 7 years. They've been in the same chain since that time as well. So this whole kind of unit over here functions as an instrument to me. They aren't individual effect pedals. They are one whole organism and one whole instrument. That being said, I've added a couple of new things over the last few years, one of which is this Walrus Slower. It's a stereo reverb pedal, and it is just absolutely incredible. Get a lot going on right there. But we're talking about the Hologram Electronics Microcosm today. And what I did for this performance was I engaged the pedal in the mosaic mode, which is the first one, cranked up the mix all the way, brought up the reverb as well because you want it as wet as you can possibly get it, and then finger strummed. So you can see I'm kind of leaning into it when I want more coming out of the pedal, backing away when I don't. So it really is kind of that minimal and simple. There's not a lot happening in the playing, but there's a lot happening with the effects. And honestly, the only thing that we have going on here is the Analog Man King of Tone, which is kind of always engaged, the EP boost, which is always on, no questions about that, and then Microcosm and Walrus Slower. And that's it. And you can hear this pedal is still speaking, which is really cool. I love how much of a universe of sound is inside the Microcosm, and it worked perfectly for this track. So again, some very simplistic, gentle strumming. I mean, I'm just brushing the strings with my fingers. And if I need to, I'll use part of the nail. And that's how we got the guitar layer that we then fed into Cosmos. I think it's really cool, and what sets you apart as an artist is the fact that you can create your own sounds. You don't have to use all this stock stuff. Now, for me, I use a blend of both. I use the stock sounds that help me get the textures that I'm looking for quickly, but then I also like to create my own using the instruments that I have and the effects that I have. This effect pedal board is an extension of me. It is essentially set up in the way that my brain works. I like to use it as one whole instrument. Getting to use the pedal board and the guitar on this track felt like coming home. And that's really what any good holiday track aims to do, is make you think of home, make you think of your family, make you think of where you've been and where you're going. And using the hologram microcosm, walrus slower, and my trusty guitar, I felt like I was really coming home in this way. All right, back to the session. And I'm playing off of the effect that's blossoming and blooming. I'm also playing the chord progression a little bit, leaning into it harder in certain moments to get the pedal to react, and pulling back a little bit to make the pedal non-reactive. It has this sort of galloping horse-like feeling. So with the guitar, I actually did a little bit of post-processing, which for overall this track, there isn't a lot happening. So let's take a look at it. We're going back to my trusty UAD SSL 4000E strip. You can see that I'm just kind of scooping a little bit out of the bottom there and pushing quite a bit of the high end, rather aggressively, I think, in my opinion, and boosting a little bit of the low end. I think that I enjoy kind of boosting and cutting because it creates this kind of cool harmonic thing that happens. So you wouldn't necessarily think to do so, but that's what I like to do. And then we're pulling just the high mids down just a smidge. The next plugin that we have here is one that I've kept a little bit of a secret for a while, but it's movement from output. It's this really unique rhythmic generator that can take loops or rather uninteresting parts and turn it into something really different. So I actually really like to use this when I'm searching for sounds or I'm searching for inspiration of a piece that I've already recorded, and it just needs a little bit of something. So if we listen to this and pull it off, you can see that the pan is kind of going back and forth here to get that galloping feeling. You can hear the phasing happening, but I liked keeping it low where we don't get a lot of that phasing, and we're just using the pan like that, which gave it that galloping horse-like feel, which I felt like sleigh ride, right? And then we round out the processing with one of the cooler plugins that came out in the last year or two, the Strymon Big Sky. A lot of you are familiar with the Strymon Big Sky, Blue Sky pedal. I have the Strymon Starlab over there. So when it came into plugin format, I really quickly jumped on it. And I love it. It sounds really great. It does, I think, what the pedal and the module do really, really well. Recallable presets, and you've got it on your DAW now. So I have a lot of reverbs, and the way that I go through and choose is just by kind of stepping through and playing. So I think that for this one, I'm pretty confident I wanted to use it and I was going to make it work because I had just bought it. But I'll go through and I'll audition a whole bunch of different reverbs, a whole bunch of different sounds, and just see which one has the characteristic that I'm looking for in this piece. And for this one, since we're staying very light, very holiday, very cheery, but sentimental, I wanted something that had emotion to it. And the Big Sky Cloud is just really an amazing amount of character in this one little plugin. Okay, so you can kind of see that everything that I performed live either as an effect or an instrument is doing a lot of lifting as ambience and vibe and pad. So if we listen to them all together, we get various forms of swells and pads and swirls, and really not anything melodic. You only get the small amount of chord movement with the guitar part. So we'll step ahead a little bit. So to me, I think a lot in visual and cinematic, and what would I be viewing if this were the soundtrack to it. And what this makes me think of as I was performing it, as I was writing it, and as I was searching for those sounds is sort of standing in the middle of a snow globe or standing in the middle of the street in New York during a blizzard, and you're walking to go get your groceries before you think the city's going to shut down. There's this peaceful, quiet feeling with this underlying impending chaos that's coming from the storm. But as soon as it starts falling, there's this blissful, peaceful, easy feeling. And all of the instruments up to this point are doing just that. They are the snowflakes falling, the wind picking up, all swirling around you, the listener, in the middle of the storm, in the middle of the snow globe. So there you have it. Those are the acoustical instruments, the organic instruments. And then we're going to go all the way up here to take a look at our sample-based instruments, which are doing also a lot of lifting in regards to vibe. So I guess we could start with this right here, which would be the strings from Oliver Arnold's Evolutions from Spitfire Audio. These articulations that are played back through various pegs on this pegboard here. So for this one, I wanted things to stay rather put instead of getting kind of hairy and flying away out of my control. So all of the pegs, you'll notice, are playing the same type of articulation, which is a long, sustained, slow swell. And I just love that you can hear the delicate bow on the string. And that texture, that bowed kind of scrape sound, works really well and plays off of the hiss in Norns. So you get this blend of the two melting together, and it almost feels like one bigger instrument instead of two separate instruments. You just get this thing where they start weaving together in and out, Norns and these strings. And then we have a few more strings enter towards the end that are doing similar things, but slightly different. Again, from Spitfire Audio, we're dealing with fragile string evolutions. I really like things that are evolutions. And for this, we're staying in the traditional realm there, as you can see. And they just push up and back with Norns. So again, taking a look at the Olafur Arnold's Evolutions and Norns together playing Fall, and you get this really fun blend of what is what. And it just becomes an emotion rather than a sound. And since we're talking about strings, let's take a look at the element that maybe some of you don't realize is in there. These big, low from Abbey Road 1. These bass movements, and really some of the more simplistic stuff happening. And we'll just tone down Norns here for a second. You can hear that they're big. And I felt like some of my favorite movies are John Hughes movies, and for the holiday, Home Alone being John Williams. So using these Abbey Road 1 legendary low strings just was my nod to a holiday movie by John Hughes, and John Williams playing the most simple lines that you could think of, but rather effective. And with these low strings, you get this you can hear that swell, that legato, that movement between the notes, which is something that Spitfire does just so incredibly well. You can hear that. It brings a really cool human element to it and doesn't feel like just any other string library. So those are our string elements. Now let's talk about one of my truly beloved libraries, Heirloom, from, once again, Spitfire. We talked about this library already before on my record here for now, but it is something that I really enjoy writing with, and I'll show you why. So you can see the articulations and dynamics are being brought up. And I really like stacking these dissonant chords and notes. You get that air. And as you'll notice these little sliders over here, I'm working with the dynamics, bringing it in and out, so that it's not just stagnant. And as you do that, it filters through the different articulation file there, and you get something that opens up a little bit more and then tucks back, and then it allows you to be really emotive with it. So again, we have a lot of pads going on here, a lot of different sustained elements, a lot of things that are creating vibe and emotion. But in order for you to know what the hell this track even is, you need to know what the melody is. And so let's take a look at the pianos. So the piano that is doing the first bit here is, once again, the trusty Olafur Arnold's Stratus plugin, which kind of plays different rhythms that you can set, and they play back when you kind of lean into the notes at different times. And I really like that because it's effective. It feels like we're getting these tap dancing fairies, these Christmas fairies dancing around your head. So when you play that across Norns and the strings, get this anticipatory feeling that we're getting. The snow is coming, the holidays are coming. We bring in the cosmos for that swirl. And then we have, finally, the melody, which is, again, in Olafur Arnold's piano. I know. But it's just so pretty. So one of the things about doing a rework or a cover that I like to do that might be a little different than other folks is I do it from memory, and I pull from what I remember of a song. So it's an approximation for sure. And I miss out on some chords, I miss out on some melody, I miss out on some things, but I think that that's what makes it kind of fun. It's like this homage to the track versus a carbon copy or a true cover song. But so the bass notes are through Native Instruments Felt Noir, which is the Nils Fromm piano. So as you can tell, I have a lot of love and respect for Nils and Olafur. And so I use these instruments because they just sound so damn good. It's this great big has these amazing overtones and this fantastic attack. It's so big. And so what I like to do and use it for are big bass notes, because I'm not the world's best piano player. So when you put it all together, bring in the guitar. And that's where you can hear the legendary low strings mirroring and supporting felt noir. And this is where Heirloom comes in to take over for the back half here. A rather simple and straightforward arrangement, a rather simple and straightforward track. Not a lot happening, but what I aimed to do was to do a lot with a little, which is sort of my whole ethos. So using that guitar, very simplistic playing through a very complex pedal, taking that then and processing it through an even more complex pedal to create these organic to each other and themselves and the track, swirling and emotive layering, and then using Norns, which is this fascinatingly deep music computer here that I'm using in a very simplistic way to drive all of this. So there you go. Once again, me telling you there's not a lot to this track. So one thing that I do want to point out is that I'm very aware of and sensitive to the notion that the holidays are not always the easiest for everyone. I happen to be 9 years sober, and the holidays were always a very hard and triggering point in my life. So that's sort of something that I deal with now as an adult, that is an extra layer to the holidays that didn't exist when I was younger and as a kid. And everything was just kind of all fun all the time. But I also know that a lot of people have lost a lot of folks, and around the holidays, that comes up and can be a difficult time. So what I really wanted to do with this piece was create this warm, kind of comforting, yet acknowledging that there's a sadness and a deeper, heavier emotion that exists in the holidays that maybe not everybody gets to enjoy or experience. So this is my offering to you all that might need a warm hug or an extra ear, or just knowing that the holidays aren't always these bright, happy holiday records. There's a bit of a sadness, and that's okay. And I think that that's what I aim to do with this track, is just say, it's okay. And so from my household to yours, I wish you a very happy, warm, safe, and healthy holiday season and a wonderful new year ahead. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this, just like and subscribe, or whatever the kids say these days. But for real, I would love to hear from you. If there was something you want me to go a little bit further into that I haven't before, just drop me a note or follow me on Instagram. I'd be happy to do so. Happy holidays, and see you next time. Oh wait, I almost forgot. Let's listen to the whole thing through. Everything's unsoloed. Here we go. Enjoy.